The boat's almost capsizing. No water to drink for days. People bothering him. He didn't want anybody to know who he was. It was a big, big journey. But he was zochet to step foot in Eretz Yisrael, and even that is a whole ma'aseh you could read there in Sichos HaRan, which is translated by BRI. They have an entire section about his pilgrimage to Eretz Yisrael. It's an amazing, amazing story. And then when he gets there, a war breaks out, and it doesn't really make so much sense, the entire story, but Ayin Sham. So Rabbi Nachman decided that he had to go to Eretz Yisrael. And he says, it says in Sichos HaRan, it was then that the Rebbe first set foot on the Holy Land. So after a few days' journey on a boat, he gets to Yafo, that was the port. He had come to the place for which he yearned. He had thirst for the moment with the greatest longing. For this he had risked his life thousands of times, literally casting his soul aside. At a certain point he said to his shamish, I'm telling you right now, you should go back. I'm going forward, but you should go back. I'm not taking any responsibility for your life. If I die on this, that's my choice. Mamish ready, Mesiris Nefesh, Mamish, to get there. But you, I'm not taking achrayus for, so you should go back. Now, he ended up staying with him, obviously. What shamish is going to leave his Rebbe. But Rabbi Nachman didn't want to take responsibility. Like, you signed the waiver slip, buddy. It's a serious journey. He set foot on the Holy Land. He was actually standing there. The tremendous joy that he experienced at that instant is beyond all imagination. If all the seas were ink, is a quote from the BRI version of Sichos HaRan in English, it would not describe it in the least. In that instant, the Rebbe attained everything. He just stepped foot in Eretz Yisrael. He later said, the moment that I walked 4 steps in the Holy Land, I achieved my goal. That was it. He was done. I'm pretty sure I remember. I couldn't find it now. I didn't get to look fully, but I recall that Rabbi Nachman himself says that after I walked 4 steps in Eretz Yisrael, I was done. I was ready to go back home. I did everything that I needed to do. The only reason why he stayed was because I think he felt bad for his shamish, who had come with him, and the shamish wanted to see, Eretz Yisrael. He risked his life. He's like, okay, for you, we'll go around. But really, he was done. All Rabbi Nachman needed to do was step foot in that place, which is itself a mystery. So when he got there, there was a Aish lo simcha gedola. Al shezach is Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Nachman, for the rest of his life, lived with a certain simcha that he was zoch to get to Eretz Yisrael. It was not common at all. And he explains why. Kikama b'niyas v'kama bilbulim v'kama machshavos v'kama ikuvim v'sichsuchim haylo alinin and Eretz Yisrael. There are many obstacles, confusions, thoughts, Yitzhahara thoughts. Maybe you should go home. It's not for you. Ikuvim sichsuchim, again, confusions, doubts on this journey to Eretz Yisrael. Umenias machmas mammon, certainly, how much money do you think he brought? Was he going to make money on the way? It was difficult, money-wise as well. And there's difficulties with we said there was with no water, and there was no food some places, in different languages, and people out to get him. V'hu kafetz al kulam, he jumped on all of them. V'gomar ha'uvda, he finished the matter, b'shleimus, v'hayi b'eretz Yisrael, he got there to Israel. Rabbi Nachman says, I have set my heart on this journey to the land of Eretz Yisrael. I know, this is beforehand, I know that I will find my way blocked with countless barriers, but I knew there's going to be Yikuvim, there's going to be I knew there's going to be problems, there's going to be Yitzhahars in my head, telling me to go back. I know this is all going to be. But as long as my soul is in me, I will do everything in my power to go. While there is a spark of life within me, I will continue and let God do what is good in his eyes. Nachman felt that he had to go to Eretz Yisrael. There was no questions. He believed this is what the Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted him to do. And he was willing to just go. Whatever happened, once he set himself to go, I'm going. Whatever happens is what the Kodesh Baruch Hu wants. But I'm going to continue to go as long as I possibly can. And he ended up getting it. But with all the meniyas and all the boom boom and all the machshavas and all the ikuvim, so when you finally get there, there's obviously a tremendous simcha. To have to fight through and overcome so many ikuvim, that's a certain, right? You feel victorious at the end of the day. V'omer, and he said, Ze'ani ma'amin, I believe, v'gamani yodeh, and I know. I believe and I know. 2 different levels. Ma'amin means I don't know, but I believe. And Yodea means I don't have to believe because I know, I've seen it, I know. Harbe b'inyan zeh, he says, I know a lot about this, I believe a lot about this. That what? Shekol hatanus, listen to this is the major Likutei here. Shekol hatanus, every, you know what a tanu is? Every movement that I made, or this person makes, v'kol machshavos, and every thought that the person has, v'kol minei ha'avodos, she'osim b'shvil eze uvdei sheb'kedusha. Anytime a person wants to do a davar sheb'kedusha, whatever that means, whether it's to go to shul in the morning, whether it means to take on shas, whether that means to do some kind of chesed, small or big, any davar sheb'kedusha that he wants to do, anything, on the journey there, again, whether it's to shul, whether it's to learn shas, whether it's to do a ma'aseh tzedakah, whatever you're doing, every movement that you make, every thought that you think, and every action that you take, b'shvil eza uvdei sheb'kedusha, with whatever it is, ein shum tenua v'ein shum machshava ne'evedes klal, nothing is lost. So even if you think you made a wrong turn, even if you think this machshava wasn't appropriate, even if maybe on the journey you even chas v'shalom sinned, even if on the journey to a davar sheb'kedusha you unfortunately made a mistake and you sinned, there is nothing that's lost. Every movement, every machshava, every action, every feeling was needed to get you to that place, and it all matters.
Even hate, or everything moving getting up to that point of
anything from the time that you set foot on the journey to some davar sheb'kedusha, everything in between is getting you to that place. Nothing's lost. It's all needed. So this is what I like to call spiritual R&D. Right? You have a company that spends millions upon millions of dollars, depending on whatever kind of company it is, on research and development. Right? They have to research different products or services or whatever it is that they're doing, and then they have to try to develop it. Now, companies spend millions upon millions. It could be even, I don't even know what companies spend on prototypes, models, blueprints, all these different types of whatever they're building. Again, products that go in the garbage. It didn't make the cut. It wasn't good enough. It was a failure. It goes in the garbage. But they have there's a whole accounting part of in the books called R&D. They put millions of dollars in there. Why would they put millions of dollars in for failures? The answer obviously is, guys, the answer. Why would they spend millions of dollars in R&D when you know it's going to go in the garbage?
Because garbage gets you to the next step.
Because you can't get to the final product unless you make the 10,000 mistakes. Like Thomas Edison once said, right? What was it? I never made a mistake. I just found 10,000 ways that it didn't work. No mistakes. It's just this way it didn't work, this way it didn't work, until finally you get to the place that works. So nothing's ever lost. And everything that you go through on this journey is for tachlis. Now, I said a second ago, even a chait sounds very radical. Well, you're like bothered by that.
It was bothered.
Now, I'm not saying not b'mezid. I'm not talking about b'mezid, even though we can even say b'mezid, but I'm not saying b'mezid because I'm scared. But it does mean b'mezid also. But anyway,
who said it?
Huh?
Who said it?
I'm saying that Rabbi Nachman doesn't make any. Right. So I'm not saying on any recording or anything that we're talking about b'mezid, chas v'shalom. If a person happened to make he was sin v'shogeg, don't beat yourself up over it more than the regular level of tshuva. It was part of it. It was part of the process. How could that be?
Was it part of the process to get to that goal, or is it just does it have inherent value in and of itself? Meaning,
I think to get to that goal. And we'll see in a minute. The next words of Rabbi Nachman is going to prove that. It's to get to that goal. Well, how's that possible? We discussed this in different chabruas and things. But if a person's going on a journey from A to Z, he's got to go wherever he's going. Okay? He's going to California. Let's say he's going from New York to California. And somewhere on the interstate, I don't know, whatever highway you take from one of the 1,000 highways from New York to California, he made a wrong turn, he made a right. Okay? So he's a little bit off. He's not going to notice. But the second he hits Michigan, he hits the Great Lakes, Great Lakes in 2 miles. Oh boy, we better change the trajectory. Waze, where are you? Because if he didn't see that sign for Michigan, he'd end up in, I don't know, Ontario or whatever is like right above. I don't know. I'm not good with the maps. Somewhere in California. And he'd end up in Canada somewhere. So if a person's a little bit off, he doesn't always notice. When a person's off big time with a sin, that already wakes him up. So even though it was a shogig, and even though it was a sin, that also can help guide him towards the destination. Just because we decide we want to go to California, or we want to start davening in the morning, or we want to start shas, it doesn't mean it's like a straight line towards that goal. When does that ever happen? Okay, it does once in a while, depending on the size of the goal, depending on the rotzen, but it doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes it takes...
The end justifies the means. Right?
The ends justify the means. But again, I'm not saying doing anything bemazed or...
Right, but
let's be careful.
You can look back at it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
After the fact.
Yeah.
Very good.
If you get there, like you said, you have to get there.
Says Rabbi Nachman, and when you break through the minias and you get to the end goal, you get to the end, you get to that davar shebekdusha. You made it to California. Then, like you're just saying, then all the movements, all the machshavas, all the bilbulim, the confusions, whatever you had to go through, whatever the zigzag path in all zigzags you had to use to get to the end goal. And in parentheses he says, it's a little bit confusing, but we'll just read it. Kodem sheshavar v'over al kol manias be'Aish hayam supek u'mavuba v'hayi omen al mishkal im las davar zeh. Before he broke through all the manias and got there, he was mesupek whether he should continue or not, back and forth, like the 8 Taharas, like Rabbi Nachman had not to go to Israel. And the manias were trying to prevent him every single way not to finish, to get to the goal. After he's zocha to pass through all of this, and he breaks through everything. Azai, let's finish off. Nasin mikol hamanias or mikol hamachshavas, from all the obstacles, from all the nefilos, and all the machshavas, good or bad, and all the tenuos, good or bad, or confused, all of the movements that you made that were even off, and all the babulim, all of that, hanal devar milyon l'mala b'kedusha, get raised up l'mala b'kedusha, because every single piece of that journey was needed for you to get there, haraya, because that was your journey, and therefore, if you get to the end goal, everything gets raised up on a pedestal because it was all kedai. Every single thing got you there. That's when, it's like a Chazal say, when your sins turn into zechuyus. Right? When you do a tshuv me'ahava, then even your chatoim turn into zechuyus, because if a chet b'shogig pushes you to ahavas Hashem, pushes you to a tshuva me'ahava, so then after the fact, when you actually do the tshuva me'ahava, you see, look, that was like a mitzvah. Not that we can ever do an avera lechatchila b'mezid, never. But after the fact, look how I got here. This thing, which I thought was horrible, pushed me to get me to this place.
So just kind of comment on what you said before. Ends justifying the means. Generally, a person says that before they get to the end.
Right.
They don't say it when they got to the end. So if you're saying it in retrospect, and you're doing a cheshbon nefesh, and you're saying, I needed to go through all the things that I went through in order for me to get here, then that's positive, that's constructive. But if you're using that as an excuse to lie, cheat, steal, step on people, and saying it doesn't matter how I get there, the ends, meaning where I want to get to, justifies whatever I'm doing now, that's not what we're talking about.
That's a good point. Like it. Very good.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna take it out of my head now.
No,
a lot
I'm
of
just watching.
and a lot of designs there with that.
I hope you don't mind my, saying it's
Yeah.
It's generally usually when we do that in business, it's because we haven't really gotten to the end yet.
Right.
We don't care what we have to do.
So to be honest, still to be good people. But this is a big thing. It's a big thing. That means everything on our journey becomes R&D.
The truth of the matter is, if we got to a place, with sins, bad things, right? If you use it as a litmus test, would I want my children to get to the same place the way I did? And probably we'd say no, because all parents are trying to do is to protect their children, is so they don't make the same mistakes that I made.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, you don't want other people to get to that end the way you got there. You want them to get to that end point.
True. Yeah, but I understand the point. Yeah, it's true.
So right. So although that's the way you needed to get there, you wouldn't want other people. You want somebody you care about to get there the same way.
Of course.
But it's a way for you to accept that that's the way you had to get there.
And it's a big thing. It's a very, very, very big thing. Because we all are very, very hard on ourselves because of the path that we've been on and mistakes. And Nachman says, just get to the end. Don't try to do anything ridiculous. But at the end of the day, you look back, it was mamash all needed. It was every single Likutei. We can't even understand the midah keneged midah, the exact nature of the Kodesh Baruch Hu, how he guided us. Sometimes we think it's obvious, it's the craziest thing in the world. How could this possibly help me? That's why Rabbi Nachman says, Ani ma'amin. I believe, because I don't know. But there's many things that, even though they're very difficult, I understand how I needed this to get to help me, propel me to the end. That's when he says, Ani yodeya. But you need to be holding always by both. A Jew always needs to live life constantly with, I believe and I know. I know and therefore I'm going to do this, but I believe that there is still Ribono Shel Olam who's bigger than me, and I don't always have to know everything. And sometimes, even what I think I know, I don't really know. Oh, we had the Sichos HaRan. We had the Sichos HaRan, remember, and was it Gimel, Daled? About the highest madrega of not even knowing that you don't know. And we're not getting back into that right now. I ain't shown a few Sichos ago. Was it 4 or 5? You could see you can listen to the recording. That was a teeth one.
Knowing that you don't know is the highest level.
No,
Not knowing.
Not knowing that you don't know?
Because then it's pure amuna. Because if you know that you don't, I don't want to get to this stuff.
Oh my God.
This is not something you could say al regel achas. You need to go back into it and be in a very quiet zone. So Rebbe Nachman says, though, that for all of this, the tenuas and the machshavas and the babum, everything for it to be kedai, for all of the R&D, imagine you have a company, they spend millions upon millions of dollars to, come out with a new cell phone. So they made one product, it didn't work, threw it out, and it helped them propel them to the next one, all the bugs did it. At the end of the day, it didn't work, flopped. So all that money wasted, all that R&D wasn't R&D because they never developed anything. It was research in RNG, research in garbage. That was it. So Rabbi Nachman's saying, only if you get to the end, then that justifies all the means. If you don't get to the end, that sin that you did, or any of the bilbul, it didn't get you anywhere, but you sinned. So we have to know that. That's a very important line. However,
You're just kind of not about.
However, we don't know. We don't know what's considered a gemar. This is very important. We don't know what's considered finishing the uvda, even though I have in my head, I want to go and I want to finish Shas. And you get 200 blot in, and then you give up, it's too hard. So I failed. It could be you didn't fail. It could be Shas was really never for you. Kodesh Baruch Hu, when the person said, I'm going to learn Shas, the Kodesh Baruch Hu was like laughing, like, like it's not shaykh by him. You have to have that she'ifa, but a Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Malachim knew it's not shaykh. But 200 blah was shaykh, and that was really what it was all for. And so when he gets there, and he's like, at the end of the day, he tried, he really couldn't do it. He tried, again, he has to be honest. He gives up after 200 blah. So most people will feel, well, I'm a failure. I didn't finish what I expected to do. But this is where Ani Ma'amin comes in. This is where Bitachon comes in, is that I don't know necessarily if 200 blots a failure. Maybe that's all that Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted from me. Maybe that is the end. Maybe all my bilbul and all my confusions, it was taka worth it to get to 200 blot. 200 blot is a lot of blot. It wasn't he did it for 2 days, 3 days. I thought he was there for 200, almost a whole year. So then you could, don't be so quick to say, no, I didn't finish the Davar Shabbat and therefore all my R&D is really RNG. No, don't say that. Ani Ma'amin. I believe that whatever I got to, even that's considered a Gemara in a Kodesh Baruch Hu's eyes. And therefore everything that got me to this place is R&D. And go fight. So be very careful. That's probably what you're going to say.
Yeah, we're not results oriented.
We're not exactly.
We're about the journey.
Be very careful. Be very, very careful. So we're about the journey, but at the same time there has to be an end goal, because otherwise it's not a journey. But at the same time, the end goal is your expectations, and therefore that can't even really be the end goal. So it's like, at the end of the day, you always have to trust in the Kodesh Baruch Hu. You can't move an inch in this world without believing and trusting. Because with all my ideas, and I have to make an end goal. I have to try. I can't just say, I'm just going to sit in my bed, and if a Rebbe comes to my house and tries to teach me Gemara, then I'll learn. Or if the minion comes to me, I'll daven. That's not how it works in this world. There's a shtadlus, which is based on das. You have to make a calculated cheshbon, and then set yourself. But every step you take with that calculation is, maybe Kodesh Baruch Hu wants, maybe doesn't want, and I'm okay with whatever you choose. But I'm going to push forward as hard as I can. Like Rabbi Nachman said, I'm going to go to Eretz Yisrael. And whatever God sees fit in his eyes, that's what will be. That's what he said. That's what we read. He had the idea, but he had the emunah at the same time. It's always a back and forth. So we there's different journeys.
It's nice how he uses the same language. He starts off Ashreinu, that we got to Eretz Yisrael, that we have it. And at the end, Ashreinu on the journey. Ashrei. You see that?
So he says at the end, I didn't read that line yet, right? So at the end. No, wait, 1 second. We're not up there yet. 1 second.
Okay.
We're up to, we finished, there's the paragraphs, no? The parentheses. He says, let's just finish off. All of this R&D, when you get to the end, whatever the end is, becomes Lamayla B'Kedusha, becomes holy. Everything becomes holy. Kedusha. V'hakol nirsham Lamayla L'tova. Everything gets like inscribed above in the Hashem's big book. L'tova, for good. Even when you thought, I'm going to chuck this whole thing, you thought really bad, you had negative thoughts, but eventually you pushed through. Even that moment of the negative thoughts somehow got you to the end. That's going to be written up L'mayla. Kol tenua u'tenua shahayla mikodem kanal. Every movement you made, Kadosh Baruch Hu somadaktik and midah keneged midah. Every movement you made to get to that end goal, Davar Shabbat is going to go up to Shemayim. Ashrei kishazochen likpots al komanias. Praiseworthy are we, fortunate are we, whatever it is the one who can jump and pass over all the manias, the obstacles. V'zochen ligmor v'lasos eze uvda tova, and he's able to finish and do some uvda tova. Because when you do an uvda tova, everything that you had to use, every resource becomes worth it. Becomes kedai. That means everything in my life. So I'll say it like this. So now so Menachem is pointing out Ashrei at the end, and then there was an Ashreinu in the beginning. What was the first line of Rabbi Nachman? Ashreinu sh'Hashem yizbarach heitev imanu ma'od shazachinu kedushas Yisrael. Fortunate are we that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was good to us, and he will rezoch it to kedushas Yisrael. So he said, what does it have to do with Eretz Yisrael? The Menias, what does it have to do with anything? Very nice. He could have said that by every Sicha. What does he mean kedushas Yisrael? So maybe, for derech efshin, at the end of this all, Rabbi Nachman was telling us that every movement we made, if it was on the path, on a journey, it becomes a Davar Shabbat Kedusha. Every movement, on the journey to a davar shebekdusha, whatever we choose is that inyan of holiness, that Eretz Yisrael in our lives, whether small or whether big, right? Eretz Yisrael is a makom Kodesh. Every tenuah we make becomes a davar shebekdusha. What's kedusha? Why the word kedusha? It should be that it's effective, it's good, it was kedai. Why the word kedusha? It's a funny word. Devarim elyonim lamala b'kedusha. Why did Rabbi Nachman use that word? So maybe, again, everything's with derech hafshir, we're trying. The inyan of kedusha is when you separate something. The first level of kedusha, right? When you're makdish an animal. We always go back to the Kohen, right? When you're makdish an animal, for whatever it is, a korban pesach, korban chatas, whatever it is, so you have a whole flock of sheep, and you say, Zeh alai. This one's on me, it's going up to the base of Mikdash for a korban. So then what did you do at that moment? You separated this, even though the sheep doesn't look any different. You don't tag it with a color, you don't tag it, you don't paint it, nothing. That sheep, though, there's like a chalos, there's a spiritual effect that comes down in this animal. It is now on its own, it's separate, it's specified. Right? It becomes specific. You bring that one up. When you focus in on something, and you say, when you sit down with your kid, and you focus only on the kid, no phone, nothing else, but whatever that kid needs, homework, a schmooze, or whatever it is, you just made that a zman kedusha. You just made that situation a makom kadosh. Because you're now making it specific, you're separating everything else out, and you just made that a holy moment. Right? That's what you're doing. Harayat mikudeshes li. She's mikudeshes to me, meaning she's now usher to everybody else in the world. She is specified specifically to me. She's miyuchad. That's a davar shebekdusha. That's what it means, kedusha. So when a person sets a goal for himself, and the goal is what tzedakah, mitzvahs, Torah, something of kedusha. Socially, you want to be better, more friendly, whatever it is, and that becomes your focus. That's your journey. That becomes a davar shebekdusha, and every step along the way gets the shem kadosh. Because everything was now, even if you didn't necessarily mean it, the by accident, the sin, or by accident you went the right when you should have gone left, but eventually that found you somebody else who got you to where you had to go and taught you a lesson, whatever it may be, everything becomes Kodesh, specific for that journey. So what's the Ashreinu that we're Yidden? What's the Kedushas Yisrael? That as Jews, we have many, many journeys. The journey of davening, the journey of learning, the journey of a family. Many journeys, but there's one major journey, the journey to Dveikus. To Dveikus to Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's the major journey. That's why we're on this earth, to get there. So if you set that as your journey, as your davar shebekdusha, everything in this world, without any exception, becomes a davar shebekdusha in your life. Because if you set that your inyan is dveikus to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, not just shas, not just davening, you want to work on, those are little journeys. But if you set your journey, which is what the Torah tells us to be dveikus to Kodesh Baruch Hu. If you set that, actually, this is my goal, there is nothing in this world that is not part of that journey. Not going to work is part of the journey, family, going on some crazy business trip, drinking a coffee, everything is going towards that place. Ashreinu, fortunate are we that we're part of Kedushas Yisrael, that we have a certain Kedusha, that we could set a path to Dveikus, and then our entire life becomes R&D. Everything. Everything becomes Kedai. Everything. You can never say, this wasn't Kedai. No, it was Kedai. If you have a path set, Dveikus, everything's Kedai. It's the craziest thing. You could turn everything in your life to a davar shebekdusha. if you set your journey properly. And then never judging where you're holding in that journey. Because there's a billion madregas of dvekas. There's no, I finally got it. Even Moshe Rabbeinu could never say, I got it. We know, he only got to the 49th level of Bina. So imagine Moshe Rabbeinu said, oh, my life was a waste. I didn't get to the 15th madrega of Bina. RNG my entire life, research and garbage. I never got it. That would be insane, right? Even though the Gemara says he didn't get to the 15th madrega of Bina, which seemingly saying he could have maybe. He didn't get there. So are we any different than Moshe Rabbeinu? I mean, if we have goals set and we try to get there, and we only got to the 24th level of Gevura, Chesed, whatever our goal is. So we also, the same way as Moshe Rabbeinu, his life was not garbage, Chas v'Shalom. It was, everything was research and development to get him to that place. So to us. Right? So Ashri Kishasoch and Likutei Kolmani is Zoch and Ligmar Lasas Eza Udadur. Everything becomes the Avar Shebekdusha. So I think that maybe that's what Rabbi Nachman is talking about. And it's a big Indian. You have to think about it. You have to set the journey. Yeah, it has to be real. It can't just be, okay, after this, okay, everything's great. No. You have to set, there has to be a journey to your life. See, as Yidden, we have the opportunity to set the journey. By God, what's his, end game? What is it? I don't know, make $1 billion?
So we can get to the journey.
That's not what he's thinking.
That's really good.
That is what's good. But I'm saying, what's his end goal? What's his journey? What do they say? I hope that... I mean, some of them, I guess, maybe have goals.
Wants to make a name for himself.
Make a name for them. And then there's never an end to that. We're going saying, we want to be double to Kodesh Baruch. Ashreinu matov chakeh.